From the Standing Stone Farm Studio right outside downtown Nashville, it's time for the most ridiculous sports podcast in the world. So sit back, relax, and listen as Bobby Butler and Brandon Bond crack open a cold one and talk all things hockey, pop culture, and complain about everyday situations. It's the Pucks Out Podcast on the Penalty Box Radio Network.
Welcome into another episode of the Pucks Out Podcast. I'm Bobby Butler. He's Brandon Bond.
Heyo.
You can find us in the three majors of social media at Pucks Out Pod. Now let's crack open a cold beer and get after it.
Let's do it.
Don't forget to check out our What a Maneuver store to get all the apparel you need. And you can also find us on Patreon where you can get some behind-the-scenes footage of the show. And don't forget to go over to YouTube and subscribe, and you'll be entered in for all future promotions. This week we're drinking an import, man, a Warsteiner Dunkel.
Yeah, just to make sure I evened it out, I made sure that I had my America koozie. So everybody knows where my loyalties still lie. But I mean, Dunkel beer, I like a good Dunkel.
Yeah.
So I mean, this is not bad. This is not super heavy. I think I like the, whose Dunkel is it?
Yeehaw?
The local. Yeah, they're Yeehaw's Dunkel. I feel
love
is
that
better.
Dunkel. Yeah.
Because they throw that, they mix it with a cheeseburger, I think. Right? Let's get this going, man.
How have you been this week, bud?
Pretty
How was your
good.
Mother's Day?
Pretty good. Went and saw some family. Made sure we appropriately distanced ourselves and stayed outside the whole time. And man, what a perfect day! And since this is a sports podcast, I guess we got to bring up the fact that it was supposed to have been steeplechase this past weekend.
Yeah.
So it was such perfect weather, and I finally figured it out. This pandemic happened because steeplechase knew that it wasn't either going to be 98 degrees with 1,000% humidity or raining. And so since it knew that, the world was like, let's shut down. We can't have anybody enjoying themselves watching horse racing at the steeplechase. So what about you, buddy?
Good, man. Went
anything?
went to the mom's house, played some games, did some Cards Against Humanity.
Nice.
Yeah, had some oysters, just some bomb-ass lobster rolls.
Oh, nice. Yeah, we had some we grilled some burgers and then they had some veal burgers too, man. And it was nice. Dude, it was delicious. And my uncle, big bourbon connoisseur. And he busted out some of the Old Forester birthday barrel.
Oh, nice. That's a good one.
Dude, it was I'm a big Scotch fan, and so it was smoother than some of the 15, 18-year Scotches I've had before, dude. It was right. I could have drank a whole glass full of it, man.
Yeah.
So,
all right, let's get into some news.
Let's
start off with some sad news. And unfortunately, this list keeps on getting added on. It feels like week to week, but it's unfortunate we have to report. Well, we're not reporting first. We're talking about the passing of pretty much the king of rock and roll, Little Richard, and one of the godfathers of comedy, Jerry Stiller.
Yeah, man. I mean, Seinfeld, and I mean, just
Kings
all
of
the
Queens.
King of Queens. Yeah, all those little roles, and I feel like one that we gotta talk about though. Zoolander.
Yeah.
His Zoolander role was he was just such a good actor, and from what you hear about him, a good guy.
Yeah.
So definitely rip Little Richard and Jerry Stiller. And I never thought that I would have a sentence that I had Little Richard and Jerry Stiller at the same time. Yeah. So that was
it's unfortunate that's the sentence.
Right. Right. I really wish it was like Little Richard and Jerry Stiller collab to make they're having a new music type show or something. But so that's sad to hear. But I mean, at least Jerry Stiller was like 90. At least it's not another coronavirus victim.
Yeah.
It was he's just old. So.
Yeah. But and then moving on and. Some dipshit named Brandon Leipsic from the Capitals, a fourth liner, not very good at hockey, by the way.
Yeah, unless you're super deep into the rosters of teams, probably never heard of the guy.
Yeah, but he went after on a group chat, on a private group chat, went after his teammates and some other players' wives. Not just disrespectful, just making an ass out of himself, and then gets caught, and then he apologizes, not for saying it, just that he got caught.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It wasn't like he's like, guys, I've got to tell you guys something, and he came out and said he was sorry. It was somebody released all of these text messages.
Yeah,
and you had mentioned to me before the podcast something about what Brett Hull was saying about how players are soft, and we used to do that all the time, and somehow threw in players used to be able to go to strip clubs, as if they're not allowed to go to strip clubs now. And we used to do that stuff all the time. Sure, maybe you did, Brett, but you didn't write it in a letter and send it to your buddies. You just shooting the shit in the locker room, and it was just you guys were all hanging around and talking. It's a lot different. I mean, you can we can convey jokes when we're sitting here in person.
Yeah.
But when you start to text that kind of stuff, and I mean, that's,
and you know what I bet he never did in the locker room, or at least I hope he never did, is talk about teammates' wives, and how they and their appearances.
Right.
Because if you get caught doing that, you're getting your face punched in.
Right, absolutely. That's beside the point, beside the fact that you shouldn't really do it about anybody, but I mean, these are people that are part of these guys' lives forever. And so like it ain't like we can't lose our fourth line player. We just won a cup, if you don't remember. We got a few guys that you may have heard of: Alex Ovechkin, TJ Oshie, John Carlson.
Yeah.
When you talk about the Capitals, and we've talked about the Capitals on here, we've never said the name Brandon Leipzig. Yeah. Okay, so you gotta know when to hold them and
when
fold
you
them.
make Tom Wilson not the biggest douchebag on your team, you got an issue.
Right. Well, you gotta know. I mean, and also, I guess another recent passing that we've had, not super recent, but the late great Kenny Rogers said it best. You gotta know when to hold them and know when to fold them. You know, so I mean, you gotta fold those up, buddy. So
and moving on now, a recent ESPN survey of about 1,000 people came back with 65% of fans say they would support the return of sports even without fans in the stands.
Yeah. I mean,
I disagree.
I would definitely support
the
it.
minor there.
I would definitely support it. There's a few, we've talked about a few that football, I mean, because of the nature of football in itself, that football without stand, if you can't have fans in the stand for football, then you probably can't have people playing football. You know, I mean, you're all close together, you're tackling, you're spitting, so
yeah, I guess it's like, and also it's, are they talking about now coming back now or coming back when it's healthy? Because obviously I don't want sports happening right now if it's not healthy.
Right.
But for cornhole, sure, let's do that. for basketball, where you got to post up on somebody, probably not the best to be swapping some sweat with people.
Right. Basketball would probably be the worst. You would have to imagine, because at least football, you're tackling somebody, but you're not doing a lot of skin to skin contact and just holding on somebody. You tackle them, you get up, you go away. But basketball for sure. But Korean baseball has come back with no fans in the stand. It's the only. I mean, a couple of the people in the dugout are wearing masks and stuff like that, but the players are not. But they're not allowed to spit, and like that's like 86% of baseball is spitting on the field. So I mean, are they really playing baseball?
That's not just throwing a ball around. Now.
They're just throwing. They can't. What if they're sunflower seed?
They're playing
guys?
Professional catch.
Exactly. What if they're sunflower seed guys? Are they not allowed to have sunflower seed? I guess they're just ballers. They gotta swallow them. Oh, man.
All right, so let's move into GM grades part 5. We're moving into the Metro now.
Ooh, and we got 4. Yeah. Well, 3 pretty good teams to talk about, and the Devils. We're going to talk about them too.
But I'll start us off with the Devils. If you're new into listening, as we've said the last couple weeks, we judge a player's what they should be doing off of their salary, and we believe if you make $7 million or more, you should be performing as an elite player in the league.
Exactly.
And the Devils only have one guy on there making, and that's former Predator, former Hab, P.K. Subban, making $9 million. And starting next season, young guy Nico Hischier will be making $7.5 million. So that's something to look forward to in the future.
He's going to have to start earning that contract a little more. I mean, it's not that he's been playing poorly, but $7.5 million is going to be... He needs a lot more play and points.
But there've been a lot of eggs in that basket.
Yeah, I mean he's young. I am by no means saying he's not going to be worth it, but I am saying that he's going to need to do more than what he has done to.
Yeah, and I think he can live up to that. Expectation. I've got him in multiple fantasy leagues and multiple dynasty leagues. He does well as a deep roster guy.
Absolutely.
But their salary cap available is $8.8 million.
Yeah,
there is no expectation. They are in a full-on rebuild phase.
Right.
So they are not expecting to go out and win cups. I'm surprised that they didn't get rid of PK this past season.
I'm just surprised that they took the contract in at all. And I guess we kind of talked about that, where they thought that they could have been doing something through the process and actually maybe be a playoff team.
Maybe they thought that he would get there and kind of shine a little bit, and they could flip him for something better.
Yeah. But even in that instance, I feel like the Preds would have sent him over for half his contract. I mean, at that point, we're saving $4.5 million still. But
it is good for them to have the veteranship of PK in that locker room with a Norris Trophy and Stanley Cup runs.
Absolutely. I mean, I agree with that. I mean,
because they
PK
need
is
leadership,
a great presence in the locker room. But for PK's sake, I hope they get him out of there and get him to a potential contender. Even if he's just he's not the PK that we knew 3 years ago, or hasn't been, at least. I'm not saying that he can't be. But I'd like to see him get on there and be a good second pairing or third pairing guy on a actual contending roster. And because I'd like to see PK get a cup if it's not us that does it.
All right, so moving into their draft capital, they've got 3 first-round picks.
Yeah. And
the picks that I know they got one from Vancouver. Not sure the other one, but they are looking like they're going to have good first-round picks.
Yeah. And
they're in the running for the lottery on just their pick. So they've got none in the second, third, 2 in the fourth, and 1 in the fifth, sixth, and seventh. So a lot of draft capital. Like we said earlier, they're in a rebuild. The good, I guess, not much to talk about, but the future. Nico Hischier and Jack Hughes are the future of that team.
Absolutely.
They got a lot of first-round picks coming up. The bad, we don't have time to go over the bad on that team. They're in a rebuild. It is what it is, but the worst part is the goaltending.
Yeah.
Something has to be done about the goaltending in New Jersey. Hopefully they draft a young goaltender, give him some years. Hopefully they can get a Jordan Binnington situation.
Well, and especially as a team that thought that they had what they needed twice with Schneider and then Blackwood, and not that Blackwood can't step up and have another good season like he did 2 years ago. That's not at all impossible. But I would also throw on the bad that it's bad. They're in on a full on rebuild, and that's why they are bad. But the fact that they didn't go into that season looking to be in a rebuild, they felt they had a good shot, and then had to move Taylor Hall and had to move a bunch of pieces, and so that's where that draft capital is coming from. So it's nice to have some first-round picks for sure, and obviously they weren't a contender, but when you have a superstar like Taylor Hall, you kind of hope that it carries you into contention.
But not anymore.
Do what?
They don't have Taylor Hall anymore.
That's what I'm saying. Okay, I'm saying at the beginning of the season. Yeah. So a lot of bad, but some potential good.
Yeah.
Definitely can come from
this is a team that has a history of winning. They can win.
And $8.8 million is a lot of money to be able to throw around, whether you want to get a big contract or whether you want to throw it on 3 or 4 smaller pieces to add to the roster depth.
And we're going to talk about it in a couple episodes, but I believe, I've just from doing the research on these teams, this coming up next offseason, there are a plethora of RFAs and UFAs going on the market on teams all around the league. That is just, they'll have a pick of players to choose from that they can just throw money at. That is a team players will like to go to. They've got a lot of banners in that building.
A lot of history, still really close to the city.
Yeah. Not paying as much taxes as, living in the city.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. Being across the river there in Jersey. But, a lot of these guys, their wives, they like to be close to bigger cities and stuff like that. So that's a great opportunity to be able to bring some guys in that would potentially want to be there.
So as far as grading, honestly, the GM grade, you got to not look at the points. You got to look at what he's there for. I give him a B+, maybe an A-.
I would say B, a solid B. I think that a $9 million contract for PK, when he hadn't shown anything to earn that $9 million at Nashville the year before, that's a lot of money to spend on a hope, in my opinion, and especially when you probably could have got him for $7 million and had the Preds pay the other 2. I'm willing to go B+ with you. They got 3 first-round picks. They got a lot of cap space. Personally, I'd say B just because of that big contract. We're talking $2 or $3 million that could be putting your cap space at $11 million instead of that 9 or instead of that 8.8.
Yeah, we'll go B, and we'll see what happens. PK only has about a year left on his contract, 2 years left on his contract. If they can get him to take a deal, then that goes up to an A.
Yeah.
If they can't get him to sign for a good deal, then maybe it goes to a B-.
Right, exactly. I think that's perfect. So that's why I would say B right in the middle there. Yeah. And if this happens throughout the next couple months that we find out they unloaded this contract or sent him somewhere else, or even paying for half of the contract, like the Preds maybe would have, we can come back and we can revise that as a B or A. But $9 million is a lot of money to be wasted.
As far as team goes, I don't see how you can do anything other than an F.
Yeah, absolutely. Was attempting to. We're not in a rebuild at the beginning of the year, as we said, and did not only terrible, but absolutely terrible. Didn't get any production from any of the guys you thought that you should have. Bad goaltending. Just a joke that you saw coming up on your schedule, and that's not. I mean, for the past few years they haven't been great. They've had a couple of good seasons. But that's not the New Jersey Devils that we've classically seen in the NHL as a terrible team. So I agree. I don't think there's any way around it. When you have banners in the arena, then you're judged a lot harsher. And that's just the nature of the game. I mean, a team that's coming in and has never won any banners, Coyotes, whatever. You get a little leeway. You can be bad and it not be the worst thing ever. But when you're a team that has historical abilities and cups on your resume, I think you gotta show out for your fans a little bit better. So F is a good call. I'm really excited that you picked first and third because I'm excited because about to talk about the Philadelphia Flyers. Man, we're probably lucky the season didn't end, or lucky the season ended, because those Flyers were tearing it up. They were tearing it up. So we're going to go into their players over $7 million. They have 4. We're getting the money out of them, obviously, though. Kevin Hayes. I didn't know Kevin Hayes was a $7 million man. I've always liked Kevin Hayes, and he may not produce the points that you think of a $7 million guy, but he provides so much to a team. I mean, as a guy that's held him on multiple fantasy teams, hits, blocks, face-off wins, multiple positions capability, providing some real depth there in Philly. So I think Hayes was if not earning, pretty close to earning it. Jacob Voracek. Hard to go wrong with him, and he was on a tear himself. I mean, 8.25, a lot of money, but it's Jacob Voracek. I think that was a good deal. James Van Riemsdyk back to the Flyers from the Maple Leafs. He's catching $7 million as well. I would say for a good left winger. I mean, he's a little older. I don't know necessarily he's specifically worth $7 million, but again, it's one of those. I don't think he's playing close to that $7 million if he's not, and not playing at that level. And then finally, Claude Giroux. Again, at the beginning of the season, it was very slow to start, slow to get everything going, and we saw over that last month and a half of the season, all of those guys picked it up. And again, when we're big fantasy guys, and Claude Giroux can give you triple position eligibility, center, right wing, left wing. I mean, what a value that can provide to a fantasy roster, but also a real roster as well. So Claude Giroux at 8.3. I mean, again, maybe they're not earning their money, but it's hard to say that with the tear that they were on at the end of the season. Salary cap, only $70K available. Not great, but not horrendous.
Expect about a contender right now.
Not horrendous for a contending team in the race for, not only in the race for the playoffs, but was the odds-on favorite to win the cup when the season ended. So going into their draft capital, they got a first-round pick, a second-round pick, no third rounds, a fourth, a fifth, a sixth, and 2 sevenths. I mean, it's amazing that they still have a first-round pick. I figured they were going to move that to bring a piece in, and they didn't have to. So the great young talent supporting a really veteran core. Carter Hart has been playing fantastic hockey at the goalie position, tearing it up. I mean, it's hard to. It would have been hard to beat a team streaking as well as they were come playoff time. and built for the playoffs too. Big bodies, but still have some speed. Constantly, this has been the Flyers' problems and issues for what feels like years, probably closer to the last few years, but slow starts, man. Slow starts. I mean, they were on a tear at the end of the season, but there's at one point in the season where I think they started like 1-10 or something like that. I mean, that's for such a good team with such good depth. I mean, we're talking if we would have done these grades 2 months earlier, I mean, the Flyers would have got a D-, D+, something like that, because they were playing very poorly before they started streaking. So a lot of good, some bad, but they definitely stepped it up at the end. So it's hard to argue. I say GM, he's put together a pretty good roster, A-.
Yeah.
A- sounds pretty good to me. Not a ton of cap space, but that's really irrelevant to a contending team, as we've talked about. The team grade, I mean, if we were talking the last month of the season, A+. If we were talking the first part of the season, probably D+. So let's give them maybe an A- as well.
Yeah.
I mean, because
if they were playing the whole season like they did that second half, I would give them the only rank of S, just above A.
I would make myself British and say that they get top marks. So I would say an A- because really all that matters is what happens at the end, right? So we can't really fault them too hard for starting slow when they were on the cusp of going to the playoffs and doing really well. Yeah. So A- for both GM and team, I think, is a good placeholder.
All right, so now moving into the Carolina Hurricanes, those jerks down there. Players over $7 million, just the one. Sebastian Aho at 8.5, what you'd expect.
Hey, his mom's a hoe. Okay, and I'm not Brandon Leipzig in it right here. His mom is literally a hoe. Okay, go ahead.
Let's hope that joke lands better than it did last time.
Let's hope it lands, because otherwise,
last time you said it, they did not get it, and they just thought you were being a dick.
that to be fair, that was just some random girls that were sitting around us at a game. So to be fair, I mean,
I think you just pointed at him and said his mom's a hoe.
I was being truthful, Bobby. I was being true. What's going to happen is this is going to get released to the public, and then I'm going to have to like publicly apologize. And say, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to call his mom a hoe, even though she technically is.
All right. So salary cap available, $980K. I think Carolina's weird. They're fourth in the Metro right now. At one point, they show signs of being a contender.
Yeah,
but then they just can't get it together. They can't. They're a puzzle that just can't put all the pieces together.
They can't string it together.
Yeah.
Like you're saying, they can't get on these long win streaks or these multi-game win streaks. A lot of what the Preds' problem was this year. You can't win multiple games in a row. You're never going to get ahead.
Yeah, they need. And I mean, this is a league now where you've got to cut the fat on that roster, and you need to bring in some superstars.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, when you've only got one guy making over $7 million, you only have $980K. That means you've got a lot of guys making kind of in between money right now.
Right.
But one of those guys that have really stepped it up is Andrei Svechnikov, which I'm going to talk about later. But draft capital of a lot of picks. One in the first, 2 in the second and third, 1 in the fourth, no 5 or 6, and 2 in the seventh.
But at what point is a lot of draft capital? Not that draft capital is ever detrimental, but at what point is collecting draft picks and continuing to have some depth in the farm system to bring up onto your team? At what point does that become detrimental, that you're not using this draft capital? It's called draft capital because it doesn't just mean you get to draft a player. Exactly as you said. I mean, not that Sebastian Aho's line doesn't kill you, because we've seen him straight murder us in those dope Kane jerseys. Okay.
Yeah.
So we've seen what he's capable of. But one guy can't do it all alone, especially in hockey. I mean, it's not like basketball where you got 5 guys on the floor. I mean, you have a constant shift of 4 different sets of 3 guys that, and I mean, it's not like, I mean, your top guy is going to play a third of the game, maybe.
Yeah.
You know, your top line is. So at what point does that draft capital become a detriment to, like, you're just saving up stuff that for people that may never hit, when you could go out and move some of these pieces and bring in a piece to help the roster.
Yeah. All right, so the good stuff, like I said earlier, Andrei Svechnikov stepping it up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're getting a lot of good value out of him. The bad, though, man, is that talent is starting to age.
Yeah.
And you've got injuries. You know, Dougie Hamilton is fighting injuries. I mean, Dougie Hamilton is a guy who should be in the talks of the Norris, but those injuries, you know, keep him out of that conversation.
Yeah, and he had a bad injury this year too.
Yeah.
And you more hope that he's probably going to come back from this. I mean, these guys have top class, world class rehabbers,
Yeah.
and
especially
and
with the
folks to
amount of
help
rest
them.
they get right now.
But I mean, it's one of those injuries that you hope doesn't, even if he's able to come back and play hockey, that he's still able to play at the same level of hockey he was playing. Because I mean, that's breaking your leg like that can be a lifetime of difference.
I mean, we saw
in
what
your
happened with
body.
Alex Smith.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
I mean, that might be a career ender.
Right, exactly. But to be fair, he was in Washington when it happened, so
His career was already in
He
question.
was, yeah, but I mean, we're talking a guy that I mean, I don't think that it was any argument before he got hurt that he was one of the top 3 guys with Carlson and Yossi and running in talks for that Norris Trophy. So,
Yeah.
All right, so team and GM grade. What are you thinking, buddy?
GM, I think maybe a C-, D+.
Yeah. I would say a C- is good, because I mean, they weren't the worst or anything, but I mean, they did not do what you would like a team like that. I mean, they only got $980K in the salary cap available. They got a lot of draft capital, but sometimes draft capital, like we just said, doesn't translate into anything, at least not immediately.
Yeah. Team, I'd give it it's hard with them.
Yeah, I would say just a solid C.
C.
I mean, because they had stretches of the season that they were, when they came on the ice, they were the best team on the ice, and there was no way. I mean, that Predators game, I think it was literally the last game that we got to go to, maybe the second to last we got to go to together. We were watching them. I mean, it wasn't like the Predators played a bad hockey game necessarily, but there wasn't any way, even if playing some of their top level hockey, it just didn't feel like Sebastian Aho and the guys were going to be stopped.
Yeah.
That game. So a lot of good, but also just very streaky, like you said.
So yeah, C- and C. And why don't you round us up with the Islanders?
The New York Islanders, old Barry Trotz. So old Trotzy, only one player over $7 million, Anders Lee. But with Matty Barzal, lots of depth on that roster. Almost a perfect roster for a guy like Barry Trotz, who likes to keep those games 1-0 or 2-1, or very low scoring team style that Barry Trotz brings. So $3 million draft capital available. What were their position on the? Where were they at? They were in a playoff spot, correct?
Let me see right now.
Let you go
Islanders are 6th in the Metro.
They were within a few points from a wild card spot, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay. $3 million salary cap available, as I said. Draft capital, no pick in the first or second round, and then 1 pick in rounds 3 through 7. So not great draft capital for what they're putting on the ice.
They are 1 point out. They're 1 point below Columbus in the wild card race.
Okay, so I mean, right there on the cusp, but not a lot of draft capital to bring anything in.
But they do only have 68 games played.
Okay, so a
Compared to
little
Columbus
lower.
is 70.
Yeah, they were sitting in a playoff spot most of the year, which is right where usually Barry Trotz wants to be, is right on the edge of that playoff spot going in. I mean, not necessarily wants to be, but he's comfortable in that position. Obviously, you want to be the top guy going in, but not a lot of draft capital. The good Barzal could be elite. I mean, he is literally the fastest skater in the NHL right now. Trotz, we love Trotz and love what he's able to do with that youthful team. And I mean, that defensive style, not needing to score a lot of goals because you're keeping goals out, is perfect for a young team like that. That they don't need to be pressured into scoring 4 and 5 goals against in the NHL. They just need to worry about making sure they keep the opponents off the scoreboard and get a good shot off some counter type plays, that kind of thing. Lots of pending free agents, and I mean, not a lot of people wanting to play for the Islanders, unfortunately. And you had put this on, needs a high scoring winger. I mean, you gotta have some, and it's not that they don't have guys that can score. That's not what we're saying at all. But they need a offensive piece to provide a goal when they need a goal. And that's something. I mean, if you're watching an Islanders game and it's 3-1 on the opponent, generally that game is not going to be won by the Islanders. They're not going to be able to put up the offensive firepower to come back, tie up the game, and then score another. And that's not always the case, but a lot of times it is based on the style of hockey.
And that's not a new case. They've been needing a high score winger for multiple seasons now.
Definitely. Even when Tavares was there. I mean, they still didn't have any, and probably one of the reasons Tavares left. I mean, not only to go play for Toronto and the history that's there, but I mean, it wasn't evident that they were going to bring anybody in to help him either. And, I mean, we saw, as much as, I can understand the Islanders fans being upset that he left. We've talked about it. Loyalty can sometimes kill your career. And he wanted to go win a cup, and he took a little less money than maybe he would have been able to get. But we usually applaud guys for that, not take them down a peg or two. So, I mean, you can't blame him.
Yeah.
So team, or I guess GM.
GM, I'd go D, to be honest.
Yeah. Let's go D. I mean, let's go D plus. I mean, they're right on the cusp of a playoff spot. But again, that's the team that they currently have, and the coach that they have that is getting them there, with a lot of pending free agents, not a lot of draft capital, not a ton of money. I mean, $3 million is not a little bit, but it's not bringing in a superstar that you need. So D plus, but I would say the team probably a B minus.
Yeah,
they're producing, maybe even a B, because they are producing.
You go straight up B.
Straight up B sounds good, because they're producing well above what you would expect just looking at that roster, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, all right. That rounds out part 5 of GM grades. We will continue next week with the second half of the Metro in part 6. So let's move now to outside the NHL, talking a little college football. And Paul Feinbaum has come in, and he's got a report from a member of the Minnesota Board of Regents. In an interview, he alluded that the Power 5 conferences could be leaving the NCAA in the next 5 years. And this was before coronavirus epidemic hit the world. So and they're saying now that they might leave short term because schools may not open up and they still want to play and get that money, and that could possibly lead to them for the Power 5 conferences no longer being in the NCAA.
So what is up with this guy in Minnesota? Why is he choosing everything?
Apparently, he just he's got to be a leak. Yeah,
he's the guy. He's the guy. Yeah. Obviously, I mean, the NCAA is a corrupt organization. Yeah. Now, what does worry me is it going to just be self-policing? Because as a fan that's grown up watching SEC football my whole entire life, self-policing doesn't work. Yeah. Okay, here's how policing worked in the SEC. If you got caught doing something, then you told on somebody else. Yeah. I mean, the Cam Newton thing is a perfect example. Mississippi State was willing to pay $180,000 to have Cam Newton come play football. Auburn was willing to pay $200,000 to have Cam Newton come play football. And so when you guys are both doing the dirt and then you tell on somebody, that is snitching, okay? That's what snitching actually is. Snitching isn't just telling on somebody that's breaking the rules. Snitching is when you were also in the wrong, but then you decide to tell, okay?
Yeah.
So that's pretty much how the SEC works. And so I can imagine what Urban Meyer and Nick Saban and Jimbo Fisher and
the big schools are licking their chops right now, knowing how much money they can throw around.
Oh yeah, but in the same course of action, I mean, the NCAA has shown you time and time again that telling on yourself to avoid any sanctions or being in as much trouble doesn't work. Bruce Pearl, who great coach when he was with Tennessee, and now I love him coaching Auburn, got a 3-year show cause for a kid being at a barbecue that they self-reported. So at what point do you just say, I'm not going to tell you guys anything because I would have got probably less if you guys would have caught me.
Yeah.
And so you just hope that there is some sort of oversight, I guess is for lack of a better term. And I'm not saying that we need some new organization, but we have maybe a board with all, of compliance officers that are all sit on this specific board and make sure that it stays within reason.
Well, if they leave the NCAA, what we're looking at here is a new G League. How the NBA has the G League. This is a G League. It'll become a G League for the NFL, which I'm all for.
Yeah, well, they need to start. I mean, if you leave the NCAA, do you get to start paying your players?
Yeah, no,
that's. I
mean,
thing.
I fully expect if they leave the NCAA, it's going to become a semi-professional league where, maybe it's controlled by the school, but it's a business portion of the school.
Yeah.
And they're treated as, staff of the school rather than students of the school.
I'm not the guy sitting here saying that they should be catching $1 million contracts and stuff.
No.
But what I'm saying is the NCAA prevents student athletes from even working minuscule jobs. And so how do you live? And that's why the low guy on the totem pole playing at MTSU is screwed because nobody's going to insure this guy and give him a bunch of money. But if you're Trent Richardson or Mark Ingram or a big player from a big Power 5, you can go get loans and get insurance to insure your career because you're going to make millions of dollars. I mean, $300-$400 a game, it's not a lot of money, but for a week of living as a college student who has their food paid for and all that stuff, I mean, I think that's a pretty good deal, and obviously there's going to be that right number, whatever that.
And obviously
number
getting paid
is.
for their likeness, jersey sales, T-shirt sales.
Exactly.
I mean, how much money did Texas A&M make on those Manziel T-shirts?
Oh yeah, I mean, and it's like you're basically stealing because they're getting this education. Well, if you would have got, you could. In some stage, you can get like a lottery scholarship and stuff and get your education paid. You know what I'm saying? It's not the exact same, but at what point do you say this is a skill set you have? And it's not like you're an artist or something where being an artist and having to go to school and do all that is you don't have a limited lifetime career of being an artist. You can paint as much as you want forever. Okay. And you may not be as good.
So here's the thing though. If the Power 5 decides to leave the NCAA, what does that do for small sports like wrestling? University of Iowa has a major wrestling program and they can afford to pay their wrestlers. Mm-hmm. But schools like, UTK can't afford to pay their wrestlers.
Well, they can
their
afford it,
volleyball players. I mean, but will they?
That's what I'm saying. The oversight. I mean, my opinion is you can't just pay one over the other.
Exactly. Yeah, that's my opinion too.
Yeah. So there has to be some, and what most people don't realize is football pays for the whole shebang. It pays for anything and everything that even at a basketball school like Kentucky, football pays for 100% pretty much of everything. They make tons of money from football, and it gets trickled into these other sports. So I don't think, and there will still be need for Title IX compliance and stuff at school. So the NCAA doesn't have the authority over that kind of stuff. So I'm with you. I'm a guy that, look, you want to pay the football players, I'm cool with it, but you got to pay the swimmer and the wrestlers and every other sport, even if it's and I can even agree it doesn't necessarily have to be the same pay because they are not the same,
obviously.
But there should be tiers of what you provide to each specific athlete because again, they are doing a job for you.
Yeah.
So, we'll see. I mean, that's very interesting. I mean, the NCAA has got to crumble if this happens, right? I mean, is these 5 conferences are their meal ticket.
I firmly believe that if this happens, it will forever change sports as we know it in this country. It'll be a new beginning.
Yeah.
And I see, and I mean, I've said it for years, I see the NCAA not making it past another decade.
Yeah, I just
don't. Yeah, I don't see it happening. I don't see a future for the NCAA.
You know, and unfortunately, the biggest argument here is the NCAA is the devil you know. So what comes from, do we get this corporatized version of college football, which is the reason that people gravitate towards college football, is that small time feel of it.
Yeah,
it's not a
that's called the Detroit Lions.
but
it's the NFL. It's a small NFL.
Yeah. Well, exactly, and that's what I don't want to happen. I mean, I love the NFL, but my favorite part of the NFL is playing fantasy football. And I mean, it's not that I don't love football, but if you just said you just get to watch a game, I'm going to sit down and watch a college game over a pro game any day, just because in college you're playing for the name on the front of the jersey. In NFL, a lot of times you're playing for the name on the back, and that's not always the case. And I'm not generalizing. But that's what a lot of the NFL has become. You see a guy get paid, and then next season he's garbage. Albert Hainsworth. Don't at me. So I'm interested. I'm interested to see what will happen. But I'm very excited about this next little topic that you got on here. Joe Tessitore and Booger McFarland out in Monday Night Football, looking internally to replace. Yes. Just a quick, yeah. That was perfect.
Listener out there, start clapping. If you're driving, you'll be all right.
We got
clap.
we got really, really spoiled when Mike Tirico and John Gruden did Monday Night Football.
Yeah,
and and it's funny. Gruden is able to explain things to you in a dumb way, like he's John Madden, without making you feel like he's John Madden. Okay, and I just like Gruden. I liked him in the booth. I thought he did a fantastic job. I loved his analysis on things. And I'll tell you what, I really liked Booger McFarland when he was a sideline reporter. And you heard blips from Booger McFarland. He was just not good. And
see, I disliked Joe Tessitore more than Booger McFarland.
I'm not a big Joe Tessitore guy. I just didn't dislike him.
I want to know this guy's resume. Oh, he's been doing fights for a long time, and EA Sports, like fighting games. Let's put him on the Super Bowl of commentating, because that's what this is. It is a weekly Super Bowl, in my opinion. The Monday Night Football is one of the greatest traditions in American history.
Yeah, I mean, you get the song. It's your first day of back to work.
Yeah,
but you don't hate Mondays as much during football season, because tonight I get to go home and watch Monday Night Football.
Yeah.
Well, our girlfriends and wives hate Monday Night Football, okay? And football is getting friggin' ridiculous for them. And I really feel sorry for them. I mean, only a little bit, because I love football so much. But I mean, we got Thursday night football. Yeah. We got football on Saturdays for college football.
NFL's talking about playing on Fridays once in a while.
There's always the college football game of the week on Fridays, and then Sundays we had NFL, and then Mondays we had NFL again, and then sometimes there will be a college game on Tuesdays.
Sometimes you got to wake up early to see the England game. Waking up at like 7 a.m. on Sunday.
Oh yeah. Well, see, that's usually better. I'll get up and I'll watch. I mean, it's amazing. I'll watch literally 9 hours of football on those days. And not stop.
And it goes by so quick.
Yeah.
I have my laptop and my tablet. Oh, I got my different leagues up. Red Zone. I got another TV on. And next thing I know, I haven't gotten off the couch in a couple hours. I'm like, oh shit!
I know.
I should get up and get a beer.
My beer's empty, and I'm just kind of hoping that Stephanie has to get up in a second.
But yeah, so it was funny. I was listening to Pat McAfee show earlier, and for years everyone wanted Pat McAfee to be on Monday Night Football. He is such an eccentric, great commentator, and so he reached out to his people and said, "Hey, I don't want to seem needy, but let them know I'm open to the idea of hosting Monday Night Football." They came back and said, we're looking for a quarterback." All right, well then Tony, Peyton, and Eli turned him down. He's like, "Hey, couldn't get a quarterback. I'm here like, we're looking for a future Hall of Famer."
Yeah.
They're like, all right, well, they reached out, couldn't find anybody. Then they're like, we're looking for someone. And it's like, I would love to see Pat McAfee on there, but I wonder where they're going to go, because they said they have to stay with an ESPN.
Yeah.
Because they have to report to Daddy Disney and get the money for that.
Right.
Which they don't have to pay someone an absurd amount of money inside ESPN.
Well, I will say to that, I like Pat McAfee, and I mean, I don't listen to his podcast a lot, but I like him, and I like what he does, and I like what he provides. I think that he is is too much of Pat McAfee for Monday Night
for sure.
Football.
And I get it. And it's the same reason why Bruce Arians is no longer a commentator.
Right.
Because he can't watch himself.
Right.
He doesn't understand that. Listen, on this podcast, we get away with saying with a couple curse words. We can do that.
Right.
But you and I, we would not be like, we can't go out and, be you host a live thing where families are always going to be watching. A couple thousand people are going to be watching.
Exactly. I mean, that's just not. It's not really who we are.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's okay. That's not a detriment to us.
Yeah.
It's just different. And I felt like that's why John Gruden was so good, because he was right on that cusp of knowing what to say and what not to say, but he said it in a way that, well, he's not trying to offend, or he's just trying to get his point across. I mean, I guess I would say, got to go get Stephen A. Smith.
Yeah.
No,
but
no, please don't. Please, God,
get Stephen A. Smith and Shannon Sharp, bring them on over into the ESPN family, and boom, we have ourselves Monday Night Football.
No, but I really don't. I'll tell you not that he works for ESPN, but I don't want Joe Buck. I do not want Joe Buck. I mean, we've talked about Joe Buck and how he does certain things good. I don't think Monday Night Football would be one of those things.
So if you had an option between Joe Buck and Chris Collinsworth.
Oh, Joe Buck, 150 times. Everybody who knows me knows that when it comes to commentators, there's a few guys that I'm like, oh, they're all right. But it's usually either I have a vast distaste for this guy or I really like him.
I hate Chris Collinsworth
as a
commentator.
There are very few people that I hate more than Chris Collinsworth, okay? Those people are Gary Danielson and Vern Lundquist, okay? That's the list. Then Chris Collinsworth. I can't believe you said that, dude. I'm like gritting my teeth over here, man. He ruined Sunday Night Football, man.
Now here's a guy. But so maybe we will take a look in a couple weeks and get a list of guys who we think would be good at it.
We'll have Disney call us.
Yeah.
And we'll send in our approved list.
Yeah. Hey, I'm a member of both Disney and Hulu.
Now
have a little poll.
Now you get your choice of booth, regardless of station, who you taking. I think there's one solid answer.
I know who it is.
Tony Romo.
Yeah, Tony Romo.
No question to me.
I would say Tony Romo and Saragusa.
Okay.
Tony Romo
both
and
are color guys. Though.
Yeah.
I personally love Mike Tirico, dude. I think he's just so good at being the guy that keeps it on track, keeps it going.
It would be another good match, and out of left field, Peyton Manning and Joe Rogan.
Oh, okay, yeah. I mean, that's be very strange, but yeah. Oh, also, I'm so sorry. There is an additional person I got to put in front of Collinsworth, Brent Musburger. I hate Brent Musburger too. So
yeah,
sorry.
And who we're also forgetting is Al Michaels. I mean,
I love Al Michaels too. Some people don't love him. I think that Al Michaels and Tony Romo booth would just be too much good.
Yeah.
We just got to back off.
Yeah.
We're going to, you know what? We're demoting you, Al Michaels.
What they're going to end up doing is putting the game on the small screen and just the main screen be them just talking.
Too. A picture-in-picture would be perfect with Tony Romo and
who's the field reporter though?
Ooh, I'm a Tracy Wolfson guy.
I'm Pam Oliver.
Dude. Okay, Pam Oliver's all right, but I'm a Tracy Wolfson kind of guy. I just like Tracy Wolfson. But see, the perfect part about that would be, Bobby, is that you wouldn't even need to watch the picture-in-picture because Tony Romo is just going to tell you what the play is going to be anyway.
All right, so no joke of the week this week. We'll come back with that next week. So let's move into pop culture.
Technically, Booger McFarland's the joke of the week.
Boom! You thought we were done.
Boom, 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 boom.
All right, so we are going to start part 1 of our X-Men discussion.
Excited.
So before we get into it, let's do a brief Now, this is a very complicated timeline. Now, when we say X-Men, we're talking about the movie universe from Fox.
Yes.
So this timeline, and I don't have the picture up, but pretty much I watched it out of order, unfortunately, because I found the order after I had watched the original trilogy, which is X-Men, X2, and then rounding it off at X-Men Last Stand.
I watched it mostly in order, but I watched all 3 of those in order, and I think that's an okay way to do it. The in-release order is completely fine. It was a long time ago.
Yeah.
And rewatching it, you find that out real soon that movies were not the same as they are now. Absolutely, especially those superhero movies when they're kind of busting into this genre. but also with such a complicated timeline that they're trying to tell this story with.
Yeah.
So this is obviously going to be my least favorite discussion of all these discussions that we have,
Yes.
because it's very clear that this block of film was, I mean, it's 2000, 2003, and 2006.
These three movies were designed to be it.
Yes.
It was just supposed to be these three, and then they started later. But so real quick, to give you a rundown of the order that if you want to watch at home, it goes X-Men First Class.
In timeline order of what
This
you
is
should
actually
watch.
called the Cannoli order, I think. It has a weird name, but I will give you the order, then I'll explain why this is the order. So it starts off with X-Men First Class, X-Men Origins Wolverine, X-Men X2, X-Men The Last Stand, The Wolverine, X-Men Days of Future Past, X-Men Apocalypse, Dark Phoenix, Deadpool, Logan, and rounding off at Deadpool 2. So pretty much, they retconned a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
They stepped on their own feet, and so the way that this order fixes that is that Days of Future Past, they literally, I mean, spoiler alert, by the way, hopefully you've watched it. They go back and they change the past, which then erases everything before.
Right.
You can start off fresh. It gets rid of the horrendous Ryan Reynolds Deadpool weapon 11, and so you start fresh. So, but today we're just talking about the original trilogy, and then next week we're going to talk about probably First Class, Days of Future Past.
Well, we can do in order to get it caught up to itself. We do the first three this time, and then we need to do First Class, Origins, and the Wolverine.
Okay,
and then
we're
we
caught
can
up.
do right, and then you're in the right order at that point.
Yes.
And then we can do 3 and 3 again. So 'cause
Okay.
it's a 12-part series, so
Yeah.
that will be the order that we speak about these. But I feel like you have to talk about the 3 worst films first, in my opinion. Not that they're bad, and honestly, actually, to be fair, the number 1 film in our consensus rank, we didn't have to do much work since we had the exact same rank. Last Stand was actually really, really good.
Oh, I loved Last Stand.
It was a really good movie.
The
and probably
final
not the
fight
worst.
scene made up for the final fight scene saved that trilogy, in my opinion.
It absolutely did, and just conceptually, the whole storyline for Last Stand was so good to me.
Yeah.
So I'm in 100% agreement, and it rounded it out in Last Stand with Angel being the mutant that they were going to correct. And such a good movie, but you got so many pieces to the X-Men world. Juggernaut and Magneto.
Vinnie Jones kills it, man.
Yeah, and Dark Phoenix being Dark Phoenix and not Jean Grey.
Yeah.
And so lots of great things came from Last Stand. And then number 2, X-Men, the original.
It was a good movie especially for the time. I remember watching that in theater.
2000. It was awesome.
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
a really, really, really good
Hugh
movie.
Jack, and let's give credit to Hugh Jackman. 20 years.
Yeah.
20 years of playing that part.
Not only does Wolverine not age, but Hugh Jackman does not age. Okay.
Yeah, they had in the last movie they had to make him look older than he really was.
Right, because he's a freak of nature.
Yeah.
I think he might actually be Wolverine, dude.
Yeah.
But just like the whole. I thought it was I thought the story was really good in X-Men. I mean, it left so much to be desired. But again, a movie in 2000. I mean, this was really like, maybe we've had a couple superhero movies and stuff, but we haven't really had that building a story out of multiple movies story.
Yeah.
Style of movie yet. So X-Men was really good. I mean, you get to meet Wolverine, Sabretooth, Magneto, Mystique. You get to meet all of the main cast and Cyclops and Jean and Dr. X.
I will say,
Professor
I still
X.
dislike Cyclops now as I did as a kid.
Yeah, he's kind of a jerk.
Well, not just that, less a jerk, because, Hugh Jackman's a jerk.
Yeah.
But he's just a douchebag about it.
Well, see, we've talked about this. Hugh Jackman is like Iron Man. When he acknowledges who he is, he understands that. Cyclops is like Batman, where he thinks he's above you, but he's still just an asshole.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I mean, I'm with you there. Now, I'm about partway through Apocalypse, where he's in, and you get to see the younger version of him. He's a jerk then too. I hate it. I hate him too. But what a good building block to start off. I didn't like how, and we'll talk about this later, how you find out that Sabretooth is Wolverine's half brother, and he really just did not acknowledge it at all. And like, hey, bro, what's up? Like, so that's cool. But now we can talk about the absolute, and there can be no question in my mind that this will be the worst movie in the entire 12. I haven't even watched them all yet. X2 was bad.
Yeah, it was hot garbage, which is saying something because, in my opinion, Origins Wolverine is bad.
Yeah,
this movie is
great.
hot garbage. It was painful to get through.
It was. I mean, I keep trying to look back, and I mean, it sucks because it's such a valuable part of the whole entire. I mean, William Stryker is such a big part of this 12-part series, these 12 movies, and
I love Nightcrawler.
Nightcrawler's and see, like, it's so many elements of it, but it was just so slow moving.
The plot was the storyline, bad story writing.
And see, I don't think that in actuality, the plot line itself is not bad. Its execution was horrendous. It was really, really bad.
Yeah, and that's saying something when Sir Patrick Stewart and Sir Ian McKellen cannot save the movie. Because as I said on our Twitter, you know, there's a lot of bad movies in this, but a lot of them are saved and actually made into good movies by the acting of those two.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But the fact that they couldn't save this movie is just goes into say how bad this movie was.
I mean, Ian McKellen plays such a good Magneto.
Oh, yeah.
And who is it that plays the younger Magneto?
Not Michael Shoemaker.
But I mean, anyway, I mean, all four of those actors that play the young Professor X, the old
Michael
Professor
Fassbender,
X, and both of the Magnetos, I feel like they all work in conjunction together so well. I felt like all of them did
Michael Fassbender and
fantastic job.
James McAvoy, like their chemistry on screen is amazing.
When James McAvoy is, I don't know if he's underrated because I don't know how people rate him, but I have yet to see something that he's done that I didn't think was an amazing job.
From what I know, he's known as one of like the better actors.
Well, exactly. He has such range that he can go across multitudes of genres, and sometimes you just get pigeonholed as an actor. And I feel like he has a look that he could get pigeonholed, but he just doesn't. And he's I liked him a lot. I thought he did a fantastic job with the young Professor X, and I was really appreciative of that casting and being able to still portray. Again, Patrick Stewart's a hard guy to portray as a young man, and he did such a fantastic job with it. I agree with that completely.
James McAvoy did that movie Split too in Glass.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. I mean that like I've never even seen that movie. It's just not really my genre.
Yeah.
But like I almost want to see it because I like him so much, and like conceptually it's a cool movie, but I've heard that he kills it. I heard he destroys that and does such a good job.
But all right, so eventually we will get around to ranking the top 12. We'll get around to, ranking our top 10 favorite X-Men or mutant villain, characters.
Yeah, for sure.
With villains and superheroes mixed in.
The crazy part about this grouping of movies, as opposed to us talking about the Avengers saga, essentially, is that there is there's the Brotherhood, and then there's the X-Men, and they're different, but they all cross so many lines and stuff that Mystique or Magneto, they're not all bad. They're not bad guys. They have different viewpoints. Now, there's, yes.
So in some movies, they are bad.
Sure, they do bad things, but it's never as... and again, they're telling their stories, so we didn't get to see Thanos' story, and we didn't get to see Loki's story. We kind of know Loki's story, but like all of these groups of people, we never really got to see their full story and their background, so you just don't sympathize with them. Whereas Magneto, you do, and that is probably one of my favorite parts of Last Stand is when Magneto gets his powers taken away, and the last scene is Ian McKellen sitting there playing chess just an old man trying to move the pieces and stuff.
Before we move on, I do want to talk one thing about it is that, the Marvel Universe is bringing mutants and X-Men into the, I guess, what is it, part 2 or whatever they're calling it now.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, they're going to have to change Magneto's story a little bit because in the original story, they were saying he was X years old and his origins was from World War II and the Holocaust.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now, but Magneto does not have the power of not aging. Right. So they can't use that storyline anymore because
that all of that information comes before Days of Future Past, where the future has changed.
So, but that's different now because this universe is no longer. So they can't. They have to go off the comic
I would imagine.
books.
Well, I would imagine they would multiverse it. I mean, that's the big thing is there's going to be.
Or they just change wars. They say that he was taken prisoner in Korea or something.
Coming back from Vietnam.
Yeah.
I also loved how, just a quick tidbit, in Days of Future Past.
Nixon?
Yeah. I'm Richard Nixon. I did enjoy how they didn't show any actual video of the real Nixon.
Yeah.
They just had an actor do it, whereas in the other movies they have videos of the president and saying things and stuff. So
yeah.
But now let's go back into sports a little bit, and I think we're just going to briefly talk about, just do a quick discussion of episodes 1 through 3 of The Last Dance, and then
so good.
When we're finished with it, I think we should do an entire segment of just talking about it and our favorite parts and what tied together. But episodes 1 through 3, if you are a sports fan, and whether or not you like Michael Jordan or you dislike Michael Jordan, watch this documentary.
Yeah.
It is so good.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Especially, so we were supposed to watch the first 3. I couldn't help but watch the first 10 minutes of episode 4.
Yeah, I've already seen episode 4.
Yeah,
so.
well, because I had to see the end of that. I mean, even though I knew the Rodman story about Carmen Electra, I had to be like, I need to see this and to see where it goes.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I loved them, dude. The first 3 episodes were awesome.
The first 3 episodes they have an interesting kind of way of telling the story. And so basically they tell you it's all about that last final championship, essentially. So the first part, they tell you a little bit about that last championship season, and they tell a part of that. And then they went back in episode 1 and told Jordan's story. And then his start of his NBA career, and then kind of rounds out back on the last season again. Episode 2, same thing, except for instead of Jordan, it's Pippen, and when Pippen came a part of the Bulls. And episode 3, same thing, but insert Rodman. And spoiler alert, we'll talk about this on our next brief discussion, but episode 4 is Phil Jackson and kind of tells his story and what part he brought to the team. And all these, as a sports fan, you've grown up, you've known all these stories, you've heard all these stories about Jordan and what he did and what he, who he was and how he acted. But because Michael Jordan opted out of the NBA's licensing agreement and decided to own his own brand and name, all this video clips and all of this information and all of these things that we've heard about but we never had any confirmation about, there's friggin' video of it and stuff out there, man. They do such a good job that whether you like him or love him, Michael Jordan is one of the most polarizing figures in the entire history of sports, and I don't think that it's even a question.
Yeah.
I mean, it is. I think
everybody knows Michael Jordan, whether you're a sports fan or not, no matter where you are in the world, whether you speak English or not.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure that some Aborigines who have never met a single person outside of their
they got a
community.
Jordan poster in their hut. And I mean, and it's as a Jordan fan myself, you grow up knowing what this guy was, but watching some of those clips and stuff of him playing basketball is just surreal, man.
Yeah, what a dope soundtrack, too.
Yeah, I mean, it was absolutely fantastic. And if there's one thing you watch, if basically at this point, it's so good that if this week you get to choose to do one thing, and it's either watch a Last Dance episode or listen to our podcast, watch a Last Dance episode.
Yeah.
That's how good it is that I'm willing to, I mean, now that they're super deep into the show,
yeah,
we already got your listen.
We got you an hour in.
We already got your listen. But so good, and I can't wait to have a complete storytelling of that and a good block. Or if we don't have enough time because it is so good, we'll do some Patreon content or some YouTube content or something like that.
Yeah, we'll do a full episode on it. We might even do just a full episode, just a midweek episode, just talking about The Last Dance.
Yeah, I mean it's that good that I'm willing to spend some extra time with you.
Yeah. But all right, so let's move into questions from the internet. Well, we got one today. Would you rather shoot webs like Spider-Man or have claws like Wolverine, but they both come out of your penis?
Initially when we read this and decided we were going to do it, it was super easy that obviously you wanted Wolverine claws.
Until you actually used your brain and you're like, oh.
Well, yeah, then I think back to X-Men 1 when he tells Rogue, she asks if it hurts when they come out, and he says, every time. And so like, he has super ability to regenerate and heal.
And probably a super high pain tolerance by now.
I don't have that at all. So I think it's pretty obvious that we got to go with webs from the peen, dude.
I'll just mention a lot more utility in the webs.
A lot more. You can immediately become a porn star. I mean, you're going to be shooting ropes, dude. I mean, that's pretty awesome.
What a great way to travel in the city, though, too.
That's true.
Just swinging.
Well, see, but like, is it pulling on your dong? Like, do you got to get like some protective gear for it?
I mean, I feel like you can control how much room you can.
So realistically, like now you have like a much fuller control of your penis as well.
Yeah.
So like think about the utility to be able to like, oh, I'm reading this book and I gotta pee. I don't want to stop reading the book. Boom. I'm just able to like control my penis and pee, but still read my book, which is, quite often a problem I have, Bobby.
Yeah. Not to mention with the claws, I see a lot of manslaughter charges happening.
Sure. I mean, so for sake of us not going to jail, because I don't think they let you podcast in jail, webs out of the penis.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty easy.
So, all right, let's move into what are you binging? Why don't you start us off?
I have been watching, and it's a show that I've like watched about 5 seasons of a long time ago and just never finished it and came back to it. But I've always loved those first few seasons. But it's Rescue Me.
I love that show.
Dennis Leary's Rescue Me, and the first season is, while Dennis Leary's not a great actor early on, he gets better every season as it goes on. I mean, he was never an actor; he was a comedian, and so this. But just the storytelling, because it starts about a year after 9/11 and follows Dennis Leary's character, Tommy Gavin, a firefighter. And they lost some guys in 9/11, and it really is showing a lot of those aspects of things that we didn't see. I mean, there's a scene in one of them where some guys set up at Ground Zero selling like knickknacks and 9/11 cookies and stuff like that. And it's like, from the outside looking in, that's like so disrespectful for something like that to be at Ground Zero and like selling, making a profit off of that. And so it's just so good to me. I mean, It just tells a good story, and it's one of those that makes you feel funny watching it. It's not really, it's funny parts, and there's sad parts and stuff, but it just like gives you a weird pit in your stomach, and I don't know, I like it. So Rescue Me is mine. For my drink, I'm gonna switch mine because for Cinco de Mayo this past week we made some homemade tequila drinks. I'm not a tequila fan, but it was 100% blue agave, so it's all right. Solid. But I am gonna switch it to that Old Forester birthday bourbon, man. That was delicious. Not that I can binge it because I can't afford it, but I want it to be on a dock somewhere that I drink.
Yeah. Awesome, man. I need to try that. I've had some Old Forest. I need to try the birthday one.
Well, they take like multiple barrels and like each year. They take multiple barrels each year and pour it into one, and then like age it a certain time, and then like after 11 years they barrel these bottles, and they're so pretty hard to find. And stuff too, man.
So I've been watching a lot of the DC animated universe movies.
Yeah, you've been trying to get me into that.
Dude, you should. So I just watched the most recent release that came out in 2020, which is Justice League Dark.
Okay.
Apocalypse War. And it's pretty much Apocalypse, I don't know, Darkseid's planet. Darkseid attacks again, and Justice League Dark.
The Dark Side of the Moon? Pink Floyd?
So Justice League Dark is Justice League, but they have like Constantine and some of the lesser known DC guys in it.
Right.
And it's just, and I've been watching some of the ones not in the universe. I just watched Green Lantern, Emerald Knights, which goes into like the founding of the Green Lantern Corps. It's nice, man. I have the DC Universe subscription, a lot of cool stuff in there. They just came out with a rewards program that the more stuff you watch and read on there, you get like, posters and some cool shit.
Dope, dude.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool. It's like shit you're already doing.
Right. You're already watching it.
Yeah.
So if you want to give me stuff to watch, the stuff that I've paid for to watch.
Yeah, and it's cool to watch some of the old Batman animated series.
Yeah, that doesn't sound that cool.
But but yeah, but I would just bring you some Coors Light, man.
Yeah, buddy. I actually had that this weekend as well.
But all right, so before let's move into this or that. This week, be a tree that can feel pain, or a snail that would never die. This or that. That's a difficult one.
Tree that can feel pain, because I mean, that's just like being a person.
Except for the moving and the being able to do things and no arms, no legs.
I've been under quarantine orders, buddy, so I haven't been doing a lot of that stuff anyway. No, but I mean,
a much higher chance of having being chopped with an axe.
Sure, but that's, finally, it's like if you're a tree, you've been around for so long. It's like, we think that trees want to live, but like they probably just want to die.
Yeah. Unless you come back as a tree, like in someone's backyard that they don't want.
Sure.
And then you're just getting the John Deere.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's pretty easy to be the tree. I couldn't go around being slow, and then you're like a snail forever. Like, that's not
but
even
in
cool.
the snail community, like you would adapt to the snail community. And
Dude, snails have communities, though?
In this case, you're immortal. You are a god. You are a god to the snails. They will make statues about you in snail world.
Yeah, but snails don't make but they don't make statues. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, what is the comprehension level of a snail to be like, that's Brandon Snail over that's Bobby's? Do they even know?
So the question is, are there no snail communities, or are they just so well hidden that we've never found snail communities?
Are you Sammy Watkins right now talking about the lizard people? Because no, even if there are snail communities, they're freaking snails, dude. They're not even fun. They don't even do anything fun. They're gross.
They can't let humans see what fun they have.
You know how I hate sliminess, bro. Like, I can barely eat wings without like rubbing my hands together like this. So like, why in the world would I want my entire body to be like juice? Like, no, I'm out, dude. I'm out on that. Like, now I guess you got tree sap as a tree. Dang it. And then I can feel it coming down, but that would feel good.
You're coming back as a maple tree.
God. Hope it's at least in Vermont, so I get tapped pretty quick. But I guess if you were like into like BDSM or something like that, or like, being dominated, that'd be a perfect life for you to be a maple tree in Vermont.
All right, so we're getting close to the end now. Let's move into what snaps your stick. So why don't you start us off with your sports?
Yeah, I really liked your sports one, by the way. I thought it was perfect, because I also agree, because like, who cares? But obviously you're going to tell us in a second. Mine is people that are always feeling the need to tell you they are insert sports here, whatever sport they're talking about, purists.
Looking at you, baseball people.
Yeah, mostly mostly baseball folks. They're the worst about it, but there are folks like that in every sport, really. Like folks that are like dead set on not getting rid of the kickoff. Like, who cares? The kickoff sucks. Like, let's get it out of here.
You know who are purists about the kickoffs? Gamblers who have a problem because they're betting on too many kickoffs.
Right, exactly. So. And it's not that, hey, folks telling you when I'm talking baseball with Joe Schmo, and he's like, yeah, no, I don't agree with that. I'm a baseball purist. No big deal. Like, you're allowed to believe how you want about sports. It's the guy that when they see a replay in baseball in a bar, they said, wow, back in my day, they didn't never have replay in baseball. I can't believe this. I'm a baseball purist. Like, are you? Are you Red? are you Stevie? Like, yeah, that's neat, man. Like, everybody was asking, wondering if you were a purist or not. So thank you for clearing that.
Hey,
up.
Everyone, he's a purist.
This guy's a purist.
No one cares.
yeah, exactly. That's exactly how I feel when you feel the need to tell me that you're a purist, because things have changed in the last 150 years.
Yeah.
So, what's your sports one, man?
All right, so I want to preface this by saying we're not a political show, and this is about all the time. champions of any sport go into the White House.
Yeah.
It's so obnoxious. Why?
It's stupid. It's so stupid. Because on both sides of it, like,
who cares?
right. I as a fan, even a fan of the team, like, I'm not like, hell yeah, the Preds won. Preds won the I don't know why I've immediately become a super redneck. Preds won the Stanley Cup. They're gonna go meet the president. I'm gonna watch that on TV. Who cares?
Preds won the Stanley Cup, eh?
Yeah, right, exactly. Like, who cares? Who absolutely cares? Like, you guys make millions more dollars than this guy. He's gonna go shake his hand.
Yeah.
Like, look, like, y'all want to meet the president? I'm sure you could do that, and you could work it out. But you don't got to film it and tell me about it.
Listen, if it's like the U.S. men's team, the U.S. national men's team, okay, I get that.
That is
obviously
different.
and I could understand like the Preds, just using them as an example, going to see the congressman for Nashville.
Completely
makes a little sense.
Completely different ball. I mean, but it's not really though. Like, again, it's not the fact that they're going to do it. It's the fact that they're trying to make it something.
Yeah.
You know, like, go meet the president. I think that's a cool
and
idea.
then every year it's the same thing. Is this player going to go? Is this player going to go? It's
right.
like, we don't care, man.
Right.
You know, it'd be easier is if the team just said, yeah, we're just not doing it.
We're not going. It's not and especially through, President Trump, there's a lot of liberal basketball players and so, well, I'm not going to meet the president. Like, whether you like that president or not, like, it's meeting a president. Like, if you were willing to go meet Obama, then go meet Trump. Like, whether you care or not, like, if you feel one way about it, it shouldn't be about politics at that point, whether somebody's trying to make it so or not. So just don't go to anybody or don't go see a president if you think it's dumb like that. But it's not a political. This is not a
because let's be honest,
arena.
those teams, they're maybe spending 30 seconds with the president. Most of that trip is seeing DC and seeing the White House,
right? And they got millions of dollars. So
yeah,
like, they can do that.
Yeah,
they can already do that. So I thought that was a really good one because it's just so stupid. It's across party lines. It's dumb.
Yeah,
I hate it.
Yeah.
So my non-sports is just a pretty simple one. People not getting the hint. Like, you're talking to somebody and, hey, you should come, do this. And you're like, oh, yeah, maybe. And you're just trying to not be mean, especially here in the South, man. We're just trying to not be mean to you, bro. Like, I don't want to come over to your house. I don't like you. I don't think you're enjoyable. But I'm not going to be mean to you. But, like, just continuing on and not getting the hint until you basically have to tell them exactly what I said. No, I'm not going to your house, man. Like, or I'm not going to the bar. Like, I'm not feeling that, So just a general one. People not getting the hint. Get the hint, people.
Yeah.
What do you got?
So I've got one-uppers.
Oh man,
across the board.
I know a lot more people that are one-uppers.
The worst is, is people when like they want to make their day seem worse than you.
Absolutely. Oh,
like,
you only got 2 hours of sleep? Well,
I haven't slept in 5 years.
I slept 1 nanosecond last night.
Or the worst is like if you're just out and you're like, oh man, I'm kind of groggy today. They're like, oh, what have you done today? Like I have to then explain why I'm tired. Like
this dude.
Listen, dude, I'm not saying you're not tired.
This dude has a monopoly on being tired. Like,
yeah,
you do realize that people are allowed to. There's levels of things. Like,
yeah,
you being more tired than me doesn't make me any less tired than I know that I am. 100%.
Or like,
and those are the worst.
Yeah. Or, oh, my back's a little sore. Oh, well, I have a broken back. Like, yeah, bud. Well, at least you don't get to feel your back.
So is your back hurting or no? Like, like I don't care. And see, those are the absolute worst version of one-uppers. The ones that have to woe is me you.
Yeah.
But the secondary version of the one-uppers are you tell a story and they have to one-up your story. And most of those people are liars, and you know they're not being truthful, and they're just making up a story just to make it up. Yeah. I mean, one-uppers are garbage. They don't get the hint, do they?
Yeah. Some of the worst, and especially in the hockey world, man, is people who have, or maybe they're lying about it, have had day one season tickets.
Right.
They feel like it's like, dude, in 1998, I was like 6 years old, man. Like, I'm sorry that I wasn't a season, like, I've been a season ticket holder now for 3 years, maybe.
Yeah.
Wow,
what, day one?
Yeah, and I'm like, yeah, I'm a season. They're like, oh, well, I'm a day one. I'm like, cool. Like, I remember one time it was after a game and I was super drunk. And and we went somewhere, and I really wanted some of those little blow up things that you hit on each other. And we were at a bar, and a lady had some. Now she started off being super nice, And I was like, oh, I've been trying to get those forever. For 3 years I've been a season ticket holder and I've really wanted some. And she's like, oh, you can have these. I'm like, oh, thank you so much. That's awesome. She's like, yeah, I've been a season ticket holder since day one, and it took me like this many years. I'm like, oh, okay.
You know what? Keep these because you seem like you deserve them so much more that you watched 10 years of bad hockey to be here now. Okay. That's what you're bragging about. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, the Preds are what they are now. And I'm not downing day one season ticket holders. They're very necessary for but it's not a point of that you need to brag to me about. You just paid thousands of dollars for a lot longer than me.
Yeah. It's not like it was like an effort thing, or it's not like you had to prove to the Preds every year how much of a fan you were.
Right.
You had to open up your wallet for them.
Right. And this is 2020. You do know that if I want to go back and watch every single game that you paid thousands of dollars for, I can do it.
In better quality.
And I can do it at my home where there's beer in the fridge that doesn't cost a bunch of money. So, all right, man. Well, did you learn anything today?
Oh, man, I learned that we had about the same rankings for X-Men.
I was literally about to say the exact same thing. I guess I've got to switch it up. I've learned that I'm willing to sacrifice people listening to the last 25 minutes of our podcast to get them to watch a Last Dance episode.
I've noticed that a lot of times with the What Have You Learned, we have to race to go first because we usually always have the same thing.
It's just one thing hits us. So.
But all right, guys, make sure to hit us up on social media and hit us up on YouTube. But all right, guys, this has been the Pucks Out Podcast. See you guys next week. Peace.
Thanks for listening to the Pucks Out Podcast. To see what other ridiculousness the guys are up to, check them out on Twitter and Instagram @PucksOutPod.